Fame and fortune cannot guarantee a life free of danger and mystery. On the very rare occasion, the most well-known stars of modern society vanish without a trace, leaving behind lasting questions. Number 10. Marcela Basteri may not be a household name, but she's the mother of Luis Miguel, a singer and record producer. She was also married to a Spanish singer, songwriter, and guitarist, Luisito Rey, ultimately making Marcela famous by default. Luis's music career began in 1982 when he was just 12 years old. His first song, 1 + 1 = 2 Lovers, was an immediate hit that pushed him onto the Latin music charts. His career would be managed by his father, who wanted his son to accomplish what he couldn't. At first, Luisito and Marcela led a glamorous lifestyle, but things began taking a turn later in life. The marriage was rocky and began to break apart, leading to the Italian woman avoiding her husband. According to later eyewitness accounts, Luisito was rude and exhibited violent behavior, although it isn't known if this was directed towards his wife or not. What is known is that he was obsessed with making his son as famous as possible. As Luis continued to skyrocket to fame, backed by his father, something else was underway. In 1985, Marcela attended her son's show at the Luna Park in Argentina, where he sang a song dedicated to her. Then, Marcela disappeared. This would be the last time that Luis would see his mother alive. 1 year later, an unconfirmed report claimed that she'd flown back to Italy with her young son, Sergio, and then headed to Spain to meet with her husband, after which she was never seen by anyone again. Various theories regarding Marcela's whereabouts came into play. One of them was circulated by the missing woman's aunt, Marcela Basteri, who believed that Luisito had something to do with the disappearance. In fact, many theories circulate around him, with some even suggesting he may have taken Marcela's life. According to one story, Luisito Rey allegedly stole $20 million from his son while he was managing him. His wife knew about this and supposedly threatened him that she would either tell Luis or go to the authorities. Another rumor that was in circulation mentioned an incurable, transmittable disease that Luisito was alleged to have passed on to Marcela. An alternative theory places the missing woman in a psychiatric facility, but no documentation could ever prove this. The truth about what happened to Marcela would be difficult to come by. Luisito passed away in 1992, and it was suggested that his son refused to visit him while he was sick. When the husband was asked about the missing wife, he would regularly suggest that she'd run off with an alleged secret lover. Luis doesn't know what happened to his mother and goes to Europe to search for her. This effort has proven futile, so instead, he's now tried to just bury the past. In 2017, the name Marcela Basteri would come up again when images began circulating online. They were of a woman in Argentina who resembled Marcela and was living on the streets, but it was soon determined that she was a Spanish woman named Honorina Montes, who'd run away with her family 24 years prior. To this day, Marcela Basteri's whereabouts are unknown. Number 9. The name Rolando Hinojosa may not be recognized worldwide, but he was a well-known disc jockey for FM 98 radio. Not much is known about Rolando's history or backstory, or even his disappearance. Online sources that refer to his case list only a few details about what happened on that fateful day. It was the 17th of June in 2001 when the Laredo, Texas man headed to the county line drag racing track. It was here that he would last be seen wearing a white polo shirt, purple shorts, and white socks. At the time, he was driving an unmistakable brown and white Ford Excursion. The circumstances surrounding the moment he disappeared remain undocumented. No one knows if he'd driven away from the track or if he enigmatically disappeared while there. After his disappearance at the track, Rolando hasn't been seen or heard from. It's unknown if his Ford Excursion has been accounted for or if it's missing along with the radio personality. After his family reported him missing when he didn't return home for a few days, the Laredo police began investigating the disappearance. Sergeant Armando Elizondo commented that they met with the family and shared information. After this, though, the case hit a brick wall, prompting the Federal Bureau of Investigation to intervene. The FBI joined forces with the Laredo police in search of the missing man. The multi-agency task force had approached the department to aid in the search for Rolando. The police were still working with other agencies, including the Department of Public Safety and Department of Corrections, but so far no leads have turned up that led to Rolando's whereabouts. No further comments were made regarding the investigation, and it's since become a cold case. No one knows what happened to the disc jockey that day, or if they'll ever find out. Rolando Hot Sauce Hinojosa has been described as a Hispanic male with brown hair and hazel eyes. He's said to have a scar on his lower lip, a mole on his left shoulder, and a chipped front tooth. Rolando was described as having a muscular build. He's 5 feet 10 inches tall and weighs around 260 pounds. The disc jockey would be just 26 years old when he vanished. Number 8. When Anthony Vivian Fox took over the nightclub The Central in West Hollywood, he reopened it as the Viper Room. Little did Fox know it at the time, but this venue was going to attract the most notable artists, actors, actresses, and even the leading mafia. The club was established on the site of the Melody Room, which was previously owned by Bugsy Siegel. When Fox had acquired the club, he met Johnny Depp, who took 51% ownership of it. The Viper Room was officially opened on the 14th of August 1993, where Depp's childhood friend, Sal Jenko, would become the manager. That year, the venue gained notoriety through the passing of actor River Phoenix, who was found deceased on the pavement outside on Halloween night. Despite this, the club would operate for years, attracting more notable clients, and ultimately turning Anthony Fox into a famous individual who hung out with the leading artists. But owning the most popular nightclub in Hollywood wasn't the only thing that shot Fox to notoriety. It was a strange, inexplicable, and unsolved disappearance that came just a day before he was due to testify in court regarding allegations against Depp for fraud and embezzlement of profits from the Viper Room. It was December of 2001 when Fox vanished. By this time, though, Depp was in France with his longtime love, Vanessa Paradis, and their children. He was already becoming less and less involved with the club. Despite Fox's disappearance, Depp and his lawyers finally settled the case, after which he quietly sold his share of the club to the missing man's daughter, Constance, who intended to sell the club, which was snatched up by Darren Feinstein, Bevan Cooney, and Blackhawk Capital Partners, Inc. Fox's disappearance came on the 19th of December, 2001, when he was last seen in Ventura County, California. He disappeared along with his pickup truck and a .38 caliber revolver. Fox would leave behind thousands of dollars in his bank account, which have since remained untouched. He also left behind his daughter, who would be left wondering what happened to her father in the years to come. Mysteriously, information regarding this man's disappearance isn't readily available online, making many wonder if someone with a lot of money is making sure to keep it as quiet as possible. Numerous theories came into play after the discovery of Fox's pickup was found the following year on January 6th. It was abandoned on Chestnut Street in Santa Clara. It was suggested that he'd been met with violence that led him to be buried in the basement of the club, but this claim, of course, was never verified. In 2021, though, inquiries with the Ventura Police Department led to fresh information being revealed. On the day of his vanishing, Fox allegedly sent a letter to his mother, who refused to divulge the contents to his brother, Charles. It's thought that the letter may contain some vital information that would lead to understanding what may have happened to this missing nightclub owner. Adding to this was the fact that Fox's phone's answering machine was never impounded as evidence, but could have had some vital clues on it. The legal case that was due to take place at the time of his disappearance was unlikely to have a favorable outcome, since the man was facing financial difficulties. Oddly, Fox's ex-wife, Judith, alleged that she'd seen him in Santa Barbara 6 months after he disappeared. Judith had seen him in a Barnes & Noble bookshop in June of 2002. She claimed that when the man had seen her, he had an expression of terror on his face. He then sprung to the exit and sprinted away. He was then seen getting into a small white Honda, which she followed for several blocks. Eventually, she was able to write down the number plate and report it to the police. The car was later found to be registered to a woman. It was also discovered that several years previously, he disappeared for a long period of time before showing up again. Family members reported that he was an eccentric person who did express an interest in living off-grid. His mother Maud's will was written after the disappearance of her son, but still named him as a beneficiary. This stipulated that Fox's share of the £1 million estate would be given to his daughter should he not return on a very specific date. It's uncertain if those wishes had been fulfilled or not. As a British citizen, Fox held a UK passport. He also had several links to royal individuals, and his grandfather was said to be a renowned botanist who advised the British royal family on planting trees on the palace grounds. Maud also owned an apartment in Kensington that was said to be stuffed with rare antiques and artwork. Strangely, none of his relatives in Britain were questioned by the police after his disappearance. To this day, it's unclear what caused Anthony Fox to vanish, and if the Viper Room and pending litigation had anything to do with it. His case remains unsolved. Number 7. For unknown reasons, on the odd occasion, notable figures will willingly vanish, leaving their families concerned and forced to deal with the grief. This is the case of Raj Kiran, an actor from India. This notable star appeared in more than 100 films from 1975 to the mid-90s. Kiran is often seen as a kind-hearted romantic, but also played some shady roles throughout his career. In 1994, he made his first television debut on the TV series Reporter. One day in an unspecified year, his film career came to an abrupt stop. Raj Kiran had mysteriously disappeared. It didn't take long for fans to spark up some outlandish theories. Reports of his passing began to do the rounds. Fortunately, this rumor was debunked by Kiran's brother, who confirmed that the actor was still alive, but they had no idea where he was or what he was doing. Prior to the disappearance, Kiran's financial condition began to deteriorate. Then his wife Rupa Matani and their daughter began living separately, sending the veteran actor on a downward spiral. According to an unconfirmed report and possible rumor, Kiran was now suffering greatly and was admitted to a mental asylum in Mumbai. After this, he allegedly abandoned his whole life and headed to New York in the hope of bettering his financial situation. But things in New York didn't act in his favor, and he later began driving a cab to make money. It was during his time as a taxi driver that the once famous actor would disappear, leaving questions in his wake. After waiting for many years, Rupa remarried. In 2011, a former co-star who acted with Kiran in Cars, Rishi Kapoor, and another co-star, actress Deepti Naval, managed to track the missing man to the United States. Rishi allegedly discovered that he was at another institution in Atlanta, but the co-star never actually met with Kiran, leaving this report questionable and unverified. It would later be determined that this report was untrue, and it soon circulated online that the actor's whereabouts were still unknown. Another actress, Somi Ali, shared a long Instagram note relating to the disappearance, and stated that she would never stop looking for him. Somi Ali had made a promise to Rishi that she would continue searching for Kiran, and she had done so for over 20 years with no luck. Using her own money, this actress would fly to the States looking for the missing actor. In her Instagram post, it was stated that a reward would be offered for legitimate findings that may lead to Kiran's whereabouts. The actress urged her followers to help in the search and that any aid would be appreciated. A brief history of the missing man accompanied the post. It stated that he was born on the 5th of February, 1949. He was raised in a Sindhi family in Bombay. After disappearing from the film industry, it was thought that he may be living as a recluse in the United States. But with the conflicting reports from 2011, it seems that his whereabouts are now unknown. Today, Raj Kiran Matani is 76 years old, and questions about his whereabouts continue to haunt Bollywood and the entire film industry. Number 6. Among the list of influencers who mysteriously vanished is Natamon Khongchak, who burst into the influencer scene in 2014 with the establishment of Nutty's Diary, her YouTube channel. The Thailand resident had built a hefty following of more than 847,000 fans on the platform through her song and dance videos. Nutty not only gained popularity through these singing and dancing videos, but was also a business owner and alleged successful forex trader. Unfortunately, the name Natamon Khongchak would make headlines for a different reason though. She had disappeared. During all these successful endeavors, the YouTuber also began to advertise private courses for beginners who were looking to become foreign exchange traders. These courses were advertised publicly on her Instagram account, along with several images of what she claimed were her profits. This encouraged her followers to funnel money through the platform to the promised returns of their investments. More than 6,000 people gave the YouTuber money with the intention of investing it while being promised returns of up to 35%. But this transaction wouldn't be as smooth sailing as advertised. In May of 2021, Nutty posted to her Instagram account stating that she owed investors the equivalent of $27 million. In a video, the social media star alleged that her broker blocked her trading account, but this isn't what happened. The YouTuber was allegedly scamming her followers and was soon placed under the eyes of Thailand police. The department had received 102 complaints from followers claiming to have lost 30 million baht to the scam, the equivalent of $820,000. Natamon was no longer remembered for the popular singer and dancer that she was initially, but she made headlines as a multi-million-dollar scammer and a fugitive. After releasing another video in which they admitted to making bad financial decisions, the YouTuber disappeared. The Thai influencer went missing in August of 2022, along with $55 million worth of investment funds. Her once highly active social media profile on YouTube and Instagram are both now silent. Thailand police were forced to issue a warrant against the scammer, who vanished, and Natamon is wanted for allegedly defrauding her followers. Number 5. Pamela Strobel is a name known to some of the best chefs that we see today. Better known as Princess Pamela, she ruled a small kingdom, but her powers drifted far into the lives of aspiring cooks. Pamela is a well-known chef and cookbook author, known for her authentic Southern cooking, which she served at her New York-based restaurant, The Little Kitchen, later known as Southern Touch. In Manhattan in 1965, Apartment 2A would be buzzing with patrons who flocked there just to get a taste of that mouth-watering food. The food was so good that Princess Pamela's Soul Food Cookbook would later be featured in the Smithsonian Institution's National Museum of American History. The food had found itself in an exhibit titled Food, Transforming the American Table. It was this very recipe book that was every cook's dream collection item. Stumbling upon it was a dream come true. Today, the book is incredibly rare, and finding a decent copy is very difficult. The cooking legend's Little Kitchen was opened in 1965. It was a small room that could seat only 12 to 15 people, and she wouldn't let just anyone in. Patrons had to knock at the door, and if she didn't find one of the diners agreeable, she would kick them out. Although she treated her restaurant like a private club, her incredible food and live jazz would attract and secure the most loyal following. Notable figures including Diana Ross, Andy Warhol, and Gloria Steinem found themselves sitting in the small restaurant. Adding to her fame was a brief moment in which Pamela is seen in the background of She Must Be Seeing Things. She was singing her own song with the percussionists. This was the only time she was ever caught on film. In 1989, Pamela moved the Little Kitchen to East Houston Street and changed its name to Southern Touch. Again, the shop was buzzing, this time with even more patrons than before. Southern Touch became a favorite among locals for the next few years, until an unforeseen event took place. Pamela would end up on the list of celebrity chefs that completely vanished. Described as soul food royalty, the famous cook mysteriously vanished one day in 1998. That day, patrons arrived at the restaurant only to find it closed, and soon it was closed down for good. One report claims that Pamela was last seen outside of Southern Touch, where she was speaking with policemen. This drew in questions about the legality of her business. It was after this that she would mysteriously disappear, never to be seen again. By the time she disappeared, Pamela was 70 years old, making the incident particularly concerning. In recent years, two brothers acquired the magical cookbook and decided to investigate the life of Pamela Strobel, hoping to learn more about her and her disappearance. They hired a private detective and even sought help from a librarian who would search the public library for any information. But there was nothing. Questions about her name have also come into play. Some believe that Pamela may have been a pseudonym. It's possible that the royal chef may have shared a name with her grandmother or other relative. Despite going down every avenue, no further information about the missing cook was ever found, leaving her on the list of mysterious disappearances that may never be solved. Number 4. Julian Torma was born in 1902. The French writer, playwright, and poet was incredibly secretive and mysterious. Most of the details regarding his life cannot be verified because of this. Torma's life was so enigmatic that his existence is questioned. with some believing that he may have been a fictitious person or possibly a pen name, particularly for the writer of the first 4 publications of the Pataphysics calendar. His birthday was listed on the 6th of April, the first person to be born on the metaphysical calendar. Only 3 Torma births have been recorded in France, all of which fell between 1941 and 1965, adding credence to the idea that he wasn't real. But images of this supposedly non-real individual do exist, and stories of his strange disappearance abound. The story begins with a man named Alfred Jerry, who worked at the local police department, accompanied by his baboon. Jerry had apologized for disturbing the officer on duty, but he needed to report his friend missing. His friend was Julian Torma, a 30-year-old poet who was well known at the time. Jerry reported that Torma had arrived in the village known as Tyrol, Austria, just a few weeks prior, but hadn't been seen for several days. According to him, Torma had taken off one day on a hike into the Alps, but never returned. It's uncertain as to what happened after this. The disappearance of the missing poet wasn't documented in detail, but police did speculate that he may no longer be alive, but they couldn't say for certain. Others suggested that he retreated to a life as a recluse, but even this couldn't be confirmed. Julian Torma was simply gone, as though he never existed. To this day, the existence and whereabouts of Torma remain an enduring mystery that's left writers and scholars perplexed and scratching their heads. Number 3. Brave Combo is a suitable name for this band, as it combines various musical styles to create unique music. According to one critic, Brave Combo will leave you with a musical education. Their catalog of recordings range from Latin American dance to Japanese pop, from rock and roll to orchestral classics. The biography of this band paints them in an unexpected positive light, but there's something marring their existence: the disappearance of Brave Combo's former drummer, Joe Cripps. The talented musician was born Joseph Cripps in Little Rock before making his way to Denton, a college town that boasts a thriving musical scene. In 2015, Joe decided to move back to his hometown in Little Rock, but would make regular visits to North Texas. By this time, he was no longer performing with Brave Combo, but kept in contact with his former bandmates. In 2016, he was still living in the town when, seemingly out of nowhere, Joe dropped off the face of the earth. He was allegedly last seen on the 19th of October that year at the Whitewater Tavern. He was due to play a gig on the 21st of October, but never showed up. Hauntingly, on the day that he was last seen, Joe had shared a picture of Manya Repnikova on Facebook. The two exchanged some words in the comments section along with other friends. Just a day after the image was shared, another friend commented on the post, saying Joe seems to have vanished. Manya responded to this, stating that everyone was worried and that they hadn't reported the disappearance yet. Joe would post on this platform quite regularly, so when he abruptly stopped after that day, alarm bells rang in the minds of family, friends, and his former band. Joe's brother, James, revealed that his missing brother didn't have a working vehicle at the time and couldn't have driven away. James would be the one to file a missing person report when he discovered Joe's medication and a bag with drumsticks and mallets inside. These were items that everyone knew he wouldn't leave behind if he was heading out of town. News of Joe's sudden mysterious vanishing quickly spread through the town, and subsequently on social media. A former bandmate who played with Brave Combo was Bubba Hernandez, who was particularly disturbed by the disappearance. He headed to Arkansas in search of his friend, retracing all of his steps, and even visited the tavern where he was allegedly last seen. Bubba also went to the church that Joe was known to frequent and spoke with witnesses in an attempt to get any insight on his last movements. At the Whitewater Tavern, he would learn that his former bandmate had been intoxicated, and the bartender called a taxi for him, but it's unknown if he ever made use of the cab. Bubba learned that Joe was working at a halfway house and doing the odd job here and there to earn a living. On the day he vanished, he'd just been paid and had a couple $1,000s on him. It would later be learned that at the time, Joe was living in a rough neighborhood. During Bubba's search, he asked a friend to remain on the phone with him as he walked through the neighborhood and passed some questionable-looking men. When he reached the train tracks, a passerby warned him that he shouldn't hang around there too long unless he wanted to get mugged and beaten. The search for Joe was far too dangerous for a one-man job, but still he continued. Unfortunately, these efforts wouldn't lead to the missing man's whereabouts. Detective Jacob Passman of Little Rock also claimed that he exhausted all efforts in recent leads. At the time, they were still looking for him, but no one knew where he could have ended up. One evening, news of a body being found on the bank of the Arkansas River flooded TV screens, but it wasn't Joe. Passman stated that the investigation into his disappearance was still ongoing, but didn't say whether foul play may have been involved. Number 2. Back in the 1970s, the children of Polish immigrants, Jurek and Marcelo, met at a religious school. A few years went by, and Marcelo was learning to play the keyboard. At this point, he met Wojtek, another Polish boy who was hungry for rock and roll. The trio decided to start up a dark wave band, with Jurek playing the drums and cymbals with just an umbrella as a stand. Marcelo was on the keyboard, and Wojtek was on bass. Later, Julio Torres would become the guitarist, and all they needed now was a singer. This is where teenage poet Monica Vidal would come in. She would play the role of the lead vocalist in the band that would later become known as the Anti-Heroes. This was the band that found themselves in the musical underground scene of the 80s. This well-known musical ensemble was the early practitioners of the dark post-punk sound. It was unique to the 80s Argentinian rock scene that saw rehearsal sessions at a metal workshop. Their first public appearance came in 1984 in the basement of the Manzana de las Luces, an abandoned 17th century convent in the San Telmo neighborhood. In the audience was Beto Morales, who would later join the band as the guitarist. The group only managed to record a handful of songs during their brief run. In 1986, Beto and Monica left Anti-Heroes and formed El Lado Salvaje. Another independent group known as Los Pilos also dominated the Buenos Aires basements. Los Pilos was founded by Pablo Esau, who would also be the band's drummer. Pablo and Monica had met one another through their individual bands and ultimately sparked up a romance. These 80s bands were rising to success and became notable among the public until something inexplicable happened, sending both bands into oblivion. It was the disappearance of the pair, Pablo and Monica. The couple departed Buenos Aires with the intent of reaching Manaus. At first, the two traveled by land to Trinidad, a city in Bolivia. From there, they planned to board a plane that was to fly to an area in Brazil and complete the trip over the Amazon. They were going to be taking the scheduled flight to the Brazilian city of Porto Velho, but it was canceled due to poor weather conditions. Monica and Pablo were renting a hotel and waiting for conditions to become better suited for flying. But one man approached them and convinced them to hire an air taxi, the cost of which would be shared with another 2 passengers. With a total of 7 on board, including the pilot, the air taxi departed from Trinidad after 1 p.m. on the 1st of February, 1989. The craft was a Cessna 206, and it was scheduled to fly for just over 2 hours. The last sighting of the aircraft was said to have been near the town of San Ana de Yacuma, just a half hour after it had taken off amid a severe storm. It was quickly assumed that the plane had crashed, which must have been at a relatively short distance of less than 350 kilometers. It was this area that was thoroughly populated with jungles and rainforests, making search efforts particularly difficult. Pablo's parents were wealthy individuals who appealed to all of their political contacts to figure out what happened to their son, his girlfriend, and the plane. They'd even contacted Carlos Menem, who'd become president just a month earlier. For months on end, the Bolivian Amazon was searched over and over again, but there was no sign of the wreckage anywhere. No passengers aboard the flight, including the vocalist and the drummer, were ever found, and to this day, the fate of Pablo Esau and Monica Vidal remains an enduring mystery. Number 1. Angelo Cruz was born in New York in 1958 to Puerto Rican parents. He was raised in a humble environment and soon found himself taking an interest in sports. During his upbringing, the young Angelo would engage in street sports with other locals, leading him to head off on the path of professional basketball. His high school level allowed him to acquire a scholarship to the university known as St. John's. The opportunity would project Angelo into a career in basketball, turning his name into a household one. He became an idol in the sports scene. He was there before Jose Alvarado and Chris Paul. Angelo would begin touring the country, competing in matches and tournaments, adding to his list of successes. After playing at Bethany Nazarene College and Essex County College, he became part of the Baloncesto Superior Nacional, the Puerto Rican men's league. Angelo competed with his team in the Summer Olympics in Seoul, South Korea in 1988 and played in 2 FIBA tournaments. But as the years kept counting, so did the basketball star's age. Retirement is inevitable, and in 1993, that dreaded day arrived. Angelo was forced to slip into the unwelcoming age of retirement. This life, though, was not the best suited for him, who preferred to continue his sporting career until his body couldn't handle it. Angelo found it difficult to adjust to this inactive lifestyle and would later get a job at the Yankee Stadium. Here, he would befriend a fellow Puerto Rican man named Jose Valentin, who played for the Milwaukee Brewers. Jose was in town playing against the Yankees when the two met. Not much is known about their friendship or Jose himself. 5 years later, though, Angelo would enigmatically vanish under unknown circumstances, leaving many questions in his wake. Legends don't just disappear without a trace. There has to be some sort of explanation, a trail and closure. But there was nothing. Questions abound, wondering if he was the victim of violence or perhaps he was in a fatal accident. Could narcotics have been involved? Or maybe he just sought a life of solitude. The truth is, we may never know what happened to Angelo Cruz, who would now be 66 years old. But still, friends and family are left wondering whatever happened to him. They searched hospital records, prisons, and even the morgue, and there was nothing. Upon his sudden and inexplicable disappearance, the basketball star left behind 5 children, with whom he was very close. The disappearance of Angelo remains unsolved today, but the New York police continue to investigate. In recent years, a group dedicated to the missing man has been formed on Facebook. There, images of the star are shared, often captioned with the quote, "Angelo Monchito Cruz, missing since 1998. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to hit that like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell to keep up to date with all of our future uploads. But my name is Ty Knotts, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.